Hello, my name is Ronny. I'm the creative superhero and architect, as well as founder of the Design Kartell. Also work as a consultant for the Green Building Institute, and I'm here today to talk about the necessity of us building and designing different. I will talk a little bit about myself, my journey, and where the whole approach of sustainability comes from in my life, and also explain certain things on sustainability as a whole and the challenges we face currently and how to overcome it. So basically I come from a socialist background. I'm a natural born socialist. I grew up in East Germany where we didn't have anything, at least not the word, sustainability, but we had to live sustainable just out of necessity. So what I always say is like, we had to turn shit into candy to make things work and to survive. So I grew up in that simple lifestyle, and I guess that shaped a lot of my nowadays design ideas and the lifestyle. So coming from this, that was the first, say, 10 years of my life, which really left a big mark on the whole approach to design. It's just a few examples of what design during those days looked like. You see the full colorful things and buildings as in social blocks. Not a lot of color when it comes to the buildings, but very simplistic lifestyle, lots of functionality, but yeah, very simple. The teen years after the war came down were kind of like the opposite. Yeah, everyone was trying to see what's coming from the West, and we were kind of excited about all that stuff, but to be honest, we didn't really know what was coming. And I think we are now at a point in our life when I see Australia where this is kind of like similar. And a lot of people obviously don't have the background I have, so it's very different. But for me back then, that was just overwhelming. So coming from having nothing to an overload, and I'm always referring to the chocolate shelf. Back in East Germany, there was one kind of chocolate we couldn't afford, and then the war came down and we had like 20 kinds of chocolate, and you start just asking yourself questions. Why is that? Do we need that? And it doesn't stop there. So it starts with the chocolate, but it goes into like the whole lot, basically. So, and I think that's another big lesson learned for me during the early teen years is question things and continuously do so to come up with solutions. So why is that? Do we really need that? Do we have to like follow the stuff just because they put it in front of us? Those kinds of things. So that's what the teen years were about for me. And then also, of course, the big lesson of people power. So seeing an entire system being brought down just by the power of people was something I don't think a lot of people in their life experienced. And it's just, I'm lucky that I was part of that and I could experience this. And I can see this as a big quality in life. So after that, I was basically also ready to see the world. There's a few other examples here on that slide where you see, look, I moved to Berlin, and Berlin in those days was really crazy in a good way. Very creative, very open, so there was no control, there was not really even any police, especially in the east part, which was great for creativity and for like an artist lifestyle, you know. So, and I mean nowadays everyone knows this about Berlin, but back in the days it was even more wild and more free. So that was another big part of my life. And after this was done, I finished school and I sort of started in my 20s, what do I want to do? So I had the first period of life as a simple lifestyle, and then I had this overload, not really knowing what to do with this. And for me, it was pretty clear I had to hit the brakes. And what I did, I went straight to Africa and started living the simple lifestyle again. And this taught me another lesson, as in I became a world citizen and I found my mission when it comes to design. And the mission was really focusing on design for people, focusing on natural materials and going back to where I basically come from, back to the roots, as in how can we use that piece of timber which is left over instead of throwing it out or going to the supermarket or to the markets to just buy new ones, just because it's convenient. So that lesson, and then seeing, you know, how people in poorest conditions deal with those kinds of things on an everyday basis was very inspiring and left another massive mark in terms of design So as you see, I'm just trying to outline where I come from with my definition of sustainability and how that shaped my design in order for you guys to understand. And even if you see those slides here, so that's all photos taken by myself in Africa. So I think it's really interesting how they, in that picture with the shells, for example, use those materials which are obviously free to create floors. And those photos here were taken around the year 2000, I think, on another visit. So especially the one with the solar panel. But during that time, they had this in a village in West Africa, where we didn't even have it in certain parts in Australia. So that was another big lesson learned for me, seeing that sort of stuff in a third world country. And that left some other question marks on my forehead. It's like, why can these guys do it, but we're not doing it in a big scale where we are? So afterwards, I moved to Denmark. And that's another very interesting change, because everyone knows Scandinavia, and especially Denmark, is known for a lot of really good design. So they have that in their culture, even in their blood. And I lived there for, I think, 4 years and got a good work experience there, and worked with a lot of architects and city planners, and just going out, seeing the museums and the everyday lifestyle people live there, and their social system is an amazing experience. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the photos, you see the diversity of things and how they redefine architecture and public living. As in, see the picture in the middle on the top, which is just a public park in the middle of Copenhagen, where they diverted a wall into a skate park. So it's just actually joining a park to the existing buildings around and using it as a half pipe. Or you see the building which they call the Mountain on the lower part in the middle, which is one of the most exciting apartments developments I've ever seen, and integrates everything, as in landscape and parking and environment and community, everything in one. So, and that building was done in the early 2000s. So that was lucky for me to be able to experience all this and get this into my brain. And then I moved to Australia. And I've been here before to study, but then it was a bit of a different game, coming back with that experience from Africa and with the experience from Denmark, seeing what's been happening here, and it was basically same old. So nothing really changed except for the prices. Everything was more expensive than the time before, but the style of the buildings was still the same, and they were still very focused just on the traditions and what has been done before. So there's no insulation in the buildings, and the quality of housing is fairly poor in most parts. So that was a bit shocking, but I had my time struggling. Should I stay here? Should I go back? But I decided to stay, because you can see this obviously as a problem or as a challenge, or you can see it as an opportunity. And I thought, look, for me, being a young guy with that experience coming from Europe and Africa and the social background, I think it's a great opportunity to actually get into the game here and show people how you can do it differently and approach this. So that was my main reason to stay in Australia and get into the market and change things. So by the time I decided this, I was in my early 30s, mid 30s, and I think this was the time where I realized, look, I've gained all that experience, knowledge, which made me the person I am. For me now, it was time to squeeze that sponge and actually turn this into a valuable business. So this is where I thought and started the Design Kartell, which is a bit of a different business model, as in not just doing your conventional architecture, but bringing all of the things I just explained, or trying to mold them all into one. So it's the holistic idea of design, not just architecture, but with the basics of everything is connected, and bringing it all together to a holistic picture. And at the same time, looking at innovation to bring this into the buildings and bring the building into the next century, make it flexible, make it adaptable, and focus on the people rather than on the profits, and connect the whole thing through education, because I think people just need to know what's out there. Everything is invented, the technologies are there, we just need to use them, and we need to start soon. So that was the whole idea behind this, and then obviously with the approach of starting a business where you go out every morning, you actually want to do and have fun. Work with people, work with projects which are interesting. So like, we try to set this up, and we're at the start with this now, and it works pretty well. We have some really great opportunities in working together with people. When it comes to the educational part, we're working very close with the Green Building Institute. So as I mentioned before, I'm one of the consultants directors there, so we try to really close the gap through education in the system. So bringing trades and professionals from design together, closing the gap, and hopefully this results, or does, in more efficiency in the whole building industry, making people aware of green skills, green building materials, and the way of running businesses and things like that. So we do this obviously as good as we can online, because that's the future and it's more cost efficient. So, but we also do the hands-on training and learn from each other. So I feel like for me as an architect designer, that's very important to also get the hands-on experience, to talk to the tradies, to understand their processes, to understand how they do things, why they do things, to make it more efficient in the planning. So, and the other way around. And so far, it's been a great journey because people really appreciate it. And I think, again, that's a more futuristic way of looking at the building industry in terms of changes. Another strategic partner or thing we integrate into the business as of this year, I'm a trained reality climate leader. That means Mr. Al Gore set up 10 years ago now an organization focusing on the awareness of climate change. So, and I was lucky enough to be chosen to go there earlier this year to Manila and join the training for 3 days. So now I'm a climate reality leader, what they call, and I'm trying to raise awareness of this because I think it's very important if you believe in climate change or not. The fact is it's there and it's reality, and we need to react to this. And with my background, I thought it's just important to take those things on, to acknowledge them, and to turn this into building solutions which react to it, and react to it in the best possible way so we can cope with those upcoming weather situations and the global warming, sea level rises and things like that.